You know, in the world of semiconductors, the race to build the next big thing is just this brutal, high-stakes game. And a few years back, Samsung decided to make a bet so big it could either completely reshape the industry or, well, backfire spectacularly. They went all in on a radical new chip design, rolling it out 2 years ahead of their biggest rival. It was a move that promised to change everything. So, let's get into it.
But here's the real puzzle at the heart of this story. When this revolutionary, world-first chip finally launched, it didn't show up in a new Galaxy phone or some high-end supercomputer. Nope. Its first home was a cryptocurrency mining rig. Why on earth would that happen? The answer to that question reveals the incredible risks and the hidden costs of trying to be first.
All right, so let's set the scene. It's June 30th, 2022. Samsung drops this huge announcement. They are the first company in the world to mass-produce 3-nanometer chips. And not just that, they're using a brand new architecture called Gate-All-Around. You're going to hear that acronym a lot, GAA. This was a massive technological leap. So who is the first customer lining up for this groundbreaking tech?
You'd think Apple, right? Or maybe Qualcomm. Nope. It was a Chinese crypto mining company called Pans Micro. Now, this was a very deliberate choice. See, a mining chip is pretty simple, relatively speaking. It doesn't have all the complex memory and logic structures that are usually the hardest part to get right. This made it the perfect pipe cleaner, a low-risk way for Samsung to test its brand new technology in the real world and, of course, to claim that world's first title.
Okay, so why? Why take such a massive risk in the first place? Well, to really get that, you've got to understand the technology they were so desperate to replace. For more than a decade, the entire industry had been built on a foundation that was, let's be honest, starting to crumble.
And that foundation was the FinFET transistor. So imagine this, a tiny little fin made of silicon sticking straight up. The gate, which is like the on-off switch, wraps around 3 sides of that fin. This design was an absolute breakthrough, and it's what allowed our chips to get smaller and more efficient for years and years. For a decade, this thing was the undisputed king of transistors.
But here's the problem. As engineers kept trying to shrink everything down to the 3-nanometer scale, the king was kind of running out of juice. With the gate only on 3 sides, that 4th side was just left open, and electricity was starting to leak out. It's like having a leaky faucet, but on an atomic scale, just constantly dripping energy and killing performance. The trusty FinFET had hit a wall.
So everyone knew the industry needed a hero, a successor, a new design that could get a better grip on those impossibly tiny streams of electrons. And that solution was Gate-All-Around.
And the core idea behind GAA is actually beautifully simple. This is the best way to think about it. If FinFET is like trying to hold a pipe with just 3 fingers, well, GAA is like wrapping your entire hand around it. The gate now surrounds the channel on all sides. That complete 360-degree control is the key. It lets you squeeze the flow of current off way more effectively, stopping those wasteful leaks. And that better grip, man, on paper, the advantages were huge. First off, you practically slam the door on that power leakage we were talking about. You can also stack these channels, they're called nanosheets, to get more power into the exact same space. And all this extra control means you can run the chip at a lower voltage, saving even more energy. In theory, it was the perfect solution. So let's go back to around 2019. The whole industry is staring down this new GAA future, and the 2 giants of chipmaking, Samsung and TSMC, they arrive at a fork in the road. They have to decide, do we jump now or do we wait?
TSMC, the big dog in the yard, they played it safe. They decided to stick with the familiar, reliable FinFET for their 3-nanometer generation. It was all about ensuring stability for their huge customers like Apple. But Samsung, they saw this as their moment. They made this incredibly bold call to jump straight to the new, totally unproven GAA technology. The goal was audacious, leapfrog their rival and become the undisputed technology leader.
And Samsung was not shy about it. They were incredibly confident. When they announced their big breakthrough, the head of their foundry business literally declared, "We defied the performance limitations of FinFET." They truly believed their gamble was about to pay off in a massive way.
But, as you've probably guessed, being first doesn't always mean you win. The world's most advanced chip was here, so where were all the customers? Because the reality of Samsung's gamble, it was about to hit them hard. It all boiled down to one just devastating number. Early reports on Samsung's 3nm GAA process suggested the yield, that's the percentage of working chips you get, was an abysmal 10 to 20%. Think about that. For every 10 chips coming off the line, 8 or 9 were defective, straight to the bin. That's not a production problem, that's a catastrophe.
And you can bet the big customers noticed. The entire industry basically voted with their wallets. Look at this list. Every single major player, Apple, Nvidia, AMD, even Qualcomm, who used to work with Samsung, they all stuck with TSMC's older but much more reliable FinFET tech. It was like Samsung built this amazing new engine, but nobody, and I mean nobody, was willing to risk putting it in their brand new car.
And the hit to their business? Absolutely brutal. During this supposed 2-year head start, Samsung's market share actually cratered, falling from 17% down to just 10%. And at the exact same time, TSMC's safe bet paid off big time, and their dominance grew even stronger.
Okay, but the story doesn't end there. The race is far from over. We're now moving to the next battleground, which is the 2-nanometer node. And guess what technology everyone is moving to? Yep, gate-all-around.
By 2025, that 2-year lead that Samsung fought so hard for, poof, it's basically gone. Intel and TSMC are both launching their own versions of GAA, and you better believe they're armed with all the lessons learned from watching Samsung's very public, very painful trial and error process.
And that's really the heart of it, isn't it? Samsung, with their big gamble, essentially signed up to be the beta tester for the entire industry. They shouldered the immense cost and the difficulty of being the pioneer, debugging a revolutionary technology while their competitors just sat back and took notes.
So that leaves us with the big question, the one that's still being answered. Was Samsung's gamble just a catastrophic failure? Did they suffer all that pain just to pave a smooth road for their rivals? Or, and this is the really interesting part, will all those scars, all those painful lessons give them a veteran's edge in this upcoming 2-nanometer race? The next generation of chips is going to tell us if the pioneer actually gets the prize or if they just ended up being the pathfinder for everybody else.